Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz, and this is Ron's Rundown. We're going to go over the MLB games scheduled for Sunday, September 4th, 2022. Now, if you like what you see, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comments section below. Now, if you're looking for my MLB best bet, you can find those at the Premium Picks tab at pickdawgz.com. As always, I'm running my $15 MLB best bet, so you can check that out at Pick Dawgz Premium. Alrighty, here we go. Here are the games for Sunday, September 4th. First up, we see our 12:05 Eastern start time between the Toronto Blue Jays and the Pittsburgh Pirates. Ross Stripling and JT Brubaker are the projected starters. Now, I do think that JT Brubaker will eventually figure it out in that Pirates rotation. He's having a decent year at a 4.39 ERA, but he has struggled at home with that 5.07 home ERA, and as of late, giving up a lot of earned runs. His last start against the Braves, 6 2/3 innings, 9 hits, 6 earned, and a home run. He's been able to miss some bats. The strikeouts really haven't been the issue, but he's been giving up a lot of base hits, at least 8 base hits in 3 of his last 5, at least a home run in 3 of his last 5, and I do think a pretty good Blue Jays lineup will be able to get to him and the Pirates bullpen. I don't really love this Pirates bullpen at all. On the other side, Ross Stripling's been pitching well for Toronto this season. He's been exactly what they wanted, 2.94 ERA. His last start, he went 6 innings, 3 earned runs, 6 strikeouts, so a quality start there, even though the Blue Jays lost that game. Really wasn't because of Stripling, and in the month of August, he owns a 1.96 ERA with 19 strikeouts and 18 1/3 innings pitched against the Orioles, Red Sox, and Angels. I like Stripling in this one. Give me the Blue Jays on the run line. Next up, we see the Miami Marlins taking on the Atlanta Braves. We're going to see Pablo Lopez and Max Fried as the projected starters. Marlins facing a lefty here. It's no bueno for me. They're dead last in team OPS, 25th in isolated power, and they have the highest team strikeout rate against lefties in the last month, and Max Fried's been one of the better lefties in the league this season. I think the Braves can find a few runs on Pablo Lopez, and I think it's enough for a cover on the run line. So I'm going to take the Atlanta Braves here and lay the 1.5 runs at home. Next up, we see the Oakland Athletics taking on the Baltimore Orioles. Adrian Martinez and Spencer Watkins are the projected starters. Spencer Watkins in his last 2 starts is 10 2/3 innings combined against the White Sox and Guardians. He gave up 11 hits and 7 earned runs, as well as a home run with only 8 strikeouts. And I do think he's regressing a bit. His ERA now above 4 on the season. The Oakland A's, their offense is not the greatest, that's for sure, but I do like what I'm seeing from Adrian Martinez on the other side, who has pitched in his last 9 2/3 innings against the Giants and the Yankees, only giving up 3 earned runs with 11 strikeouts, so more than a strikeout per inning in that stretch. He's starting to miss some more bats. He also has only given up 1 home run in his last 9 1/3 innings, so impressive stuff there. I think he keeps this game close. I think it's going to be a lower scoring game overall. I'm going to take the plus 1.5 with the road dog here in the Oakland A's. Next up, we see the Texas Rangers taking on the Boston Red Sox. We're going to see Dane Dunning and Cutter Crawford on the mound for this one. Now, Dane Dunning has pitched well at home this season, but on the road, he's got an ERA above 5, and I didn't really like what I saw from him in his last start against the Houston Astros. He gave up 2 earned runs, 3 total runs. A home run was included in that one, but he also gave up 7 base hits and 3 walks. He got out of a lot of jams, which he is pretty good at doing that, but on the road at Fenway Park, I don't love his chances there. And in his last 2 starts overall, he's been getting hit, plenty of base hits allowed. The home run ball's also starting to hurt him, which you don't like to see from a ground ball pitcher like Dunning. So I think the Red Sox get to him, but I also think you look at Cutter Crawford, he has also been not in great form. You look at his last start, 4 earned against the Twins in Minnesota in a 10-5 loss. The previous start, 4 2/3 innings, 10 base hits, 4 earned runs against the Blue Jays. The previous start to that one, in Camden Yards, or it was it was in Camden Yards, 15-10 final score, 3 2/3 innings, 11 hits, 9 earned runs, 3 home runs. So he is not in good form. The Texas Rangers have already shown they can compete offensively in this series. The first game, they put up 8 runs. Give me the over in this Rangers-Red Sox game. Next up, we see the New York Yankees taking on the Tampa Bay Rays. Frankie Montes going for the Yankees. No official starter for the Rays quite yet, so there is no official lineup for this one. But I have to say, I'm a little bit worried about the New York Yankees. I don't like the way their bullpen has looked. I don't really like the way their starting pitching has looked, especially their new acquisition in Frankie Montes, who his last start, he gave up 3 home runs against the Angels, 4 earned runs in that game, and he has not really pitched well as a Yankee, and his ERA on the road overall this year at 5.85. Tampa Bay Rays feel like they have a chance in this division in terms of the standings. And in the middle of the season, towards the beginning of July, I don't think anybody thought that the Yankees had any chance of blowing their lead in the American League East. But right now, the Rays are right there, and they look strong in this series. I like Tampa Bay to win this game at home. They played so well at Tropicana Field this season, and the Yankees have some issues offensively and in their bullpen. I know injuries play a part in that, but give me the Tampa Bay Rays here on the money line. Next up, we see the Colorado Rockies taking on the Cincinnati Reds. Jose Urena and Chase Anderson are the starters. Not the greatest pitching matchup on paper, that's for sure, but the total's still only at 9 for this game, which is a little bit surprising, as this is at Great American Ballpark. There's certainly been some 10, 10.5, even 11 totals that we've seen in Cincinnati this season. So to see this one at 9, a little surprising, but I do think that it goes to show that Jose Urena hasn't been too bad on the road this season. At Coors Field, you can't back him. He's got an ERA above 7, but on the road in the 30 innings, he's got a 4.11 ERA. Not too shabby, only 3 home runs allowed in those innings. So, he's been solid on the road, and I think he is the better option here compared to Chase Anderson, who in his first 2 outings at the major league level, in 2 1/3 innings pitched, he's given up 7 earned runs, 8 total runs, 2 homers. It hasn't been pretty for Chase Anderson. I think the Rockies have the slightly better lineup. I think they have the slightly better bullpen, and I do trust Urena just slightly as well. Even though neither of these guys are my favorite starters to back, I'm going to take the Colorado Rockies on the money line. In the next game, we see the Kansas City Royals taking on the Detroit Tigers. No official lineup for this one, as the Royals have not announced a starter, but we should see Matt Manning on the mound for Detroit, and I think he bounces back from his most recent outing against the Seattle Mariners. It was not pretty for him. He gave up 7 earned runs in that game, but overall, he wasn't pitching too poorly in the month of August, and he was able to strike out some batters in the month of August, which is also something I like to see. But I think you throw away that last start. I mean, he's still got an ERA of 4.18 with those 7 earned runs allowed, and the Mariners have been red hot right now. The Royals not necessarily. So I do think Manning bounces back. It's a good matchup for him. And although the Tigers' offense isn't great, it's definitely better at home. And the Tigers overall have been way better at home than they have been on the road. The Royals have struggled on the road this season, one of the worst road teams in the American League. So give me the Detroit Tigers in a lean here. Not my favorite game on the board, but I'll take them on the money line. Next up, we see the Washington Nationals taking on the New York Mets. Carlos "Cookie" Carrasco makes his return to the mound after his IL stint, and Eric Fedde on the other side for the Nats. Carlos Carrasco, he's missed some time. His last start was back on August 15th, so about 2 weeks or so, but I think he'll be fine in this game. He's facing a pretty weak lineup. He's pitched very well at Citi Field this season. He's 8-1 with a 3.35 ERA, 74 strikeouts, and about 75 innings of work, only 6 home runs in that stretch. I think he pitches well. On the other side, Eric Fedde, an ERA above 5 this season. His last start gave up 6 earned runs, against the Oakland A's of all lineups. A home run, 9 hits, and only 2 2/3 innings pitched. He's faced the Mets a few times this year, and it hasn't really been pretty. He's got an 11.37 ERA in 6 1/3 innings, 8 earned runs, 13 base hits, and 2 homers. I can't trust him in this one on the road. Give me the New York Mets on the run line, and I'd lay 2.5 runs as well. Next up, we see the Minnesota Twins taking on the Chicago White Sox with Dylan Bundy and Lucas Giolito on the mound. Now, I like the over in this game, as I cannot trust either starting pitching option, and I do like both offenses against right-handed pitching. The White Sox number 10 in the league in the last 30 days in team OPS against righties, and the Twins ranked 13th. And the Twins have pretty good power numbers overall this season, even without Byron Buxton in the lineup. And I think both teams will get on the board early and often. Lucas Giolito has not pitched well at home, an ERA at 6.86 at Guaranteed Rate Field. Dylan Bundy's been inconsistent. He doesn't really miss a lot of bats these days, and I don't really trust it against a White Sox lineup that does a good job at limiting strikeouts to begin with. I like the over. I think this total set too low. Give me the over in the Twins White Sox. Next up, we see the Chicago Cubs taking on the St. Louis Cardinals. 2:15 Eastern start time here. Marcus Strowman and Miles Michaelis. Miles Michaelis hasn't been in the best of form. He's given up a good amount of home runs, and although he's been pitching pretty well at Busch Stadium this season, he has struggled against these Chicago Cubs. The last start, it was at Wrigley Field. He went 6 2/3 innings, 6 hits, 5 total runs, 3 earned, and a homer. And then the previous start, that was in Busch Stadium on August 4th, 6 1/3, 8 base hits, a home run, 3 earned runs. So it was a quality start on paper, but a lot of base runners, and it was only a 1-run win in the end for the Cardinals, while that Wrigley Field game, the Cardinals lost that game 7-1. So the Cubs have faced Michaelis a ton this season, four times already, and I think when you're a lineup that faces a starter over and over again, the advantage definitely goes to the lineup. Now, the Cardinals have faced Strowman a few times recently as well. He's had mixed results. His last start was not good against them, but that was at Wrigley Field. And the big thing for Strowman, ERA at 6.92 at Wrigley Field this year, 2.05 on the road in 61 road innings. His ground ball stuff works a lot better away from Wrigley Field. I think he keeps his team in this game. I'm going to take the Chicago Cubs plus the 1.5 runs. I expect a one-run game either way. Next up, we see the Seattle Mariners taking on the Cleveland Guardians. Cal Quantrill and George Kirby are the projected starters. I think this is a pretty solid pitching matchup. I've mentioned Cal Quantrill's got to be one of the tougher pitchers to read as he's been so inconsistent this season. Sometimes he's throwing gems against Houston Astros, 6 innings, no earned runs, 4 strikeouts. And then sometimes he's struggling against the Detroit Tigers like back on August 17th where he gave up those 4 earned runs. But his last 13 innings, he's been razor sharp. One earned run, 10 strikeouts. The wins have been piling in for the Guardians with Quantrill on the mound. He's 7-0 with a 3.24 ERA at home. I think he pitches well again, but I also think George Kirby pitches well, and that's why I like the under in this game. George Kirby, a 2.85 ERA away from home. His last 12 innings, only 1 earned run allowed with 14 strikeouts. He has been missing a ton of bats and not giving up the home run ball his last 5 outings. That's very impressive for a guy who had issues with the home run ball at the beginning of the year. I think he's made the adjustments necessary to win, and I like the under in this Mariners-Guardians game. Next up, we see the Philadelphia Phillies taking on the San Francisco Giants with a pair of lefties on the mound, Ranger Suarez and Carlos Rodon. Now, I know Rodon struggled in his most recent outing against San Diego, but he's still got a 3.18 ERA in the month of August, and I do like the fact that he's missing a good amount of bats this season. I think he pitches well enough to keep this game low scoring here, but on the other side, I also like Ranger Suarez, and he's also been pitching well in August with a 2.83 ERA. His defense did him no favors in that most recent game against the Diamondbacks, where he gave up 4 unearned runs as well as 2 earned runs, 4 strikeouts through 3 2/3 innings, but he keeps the ball on the ground. He's got a 48-34 ground ball to fly ball ratio in the month of August, and I think that's going to help him in a stadium like Oracle Park. It's already a pitcher-friendly ballpark, so give me the under in the Phillies-Giants game. Next up, we see the Houston Astros taking on the Los Angeles Angels. Jose Urquidy and Tucker Davidson are the starters, and I don't like Tucker Davidson in this particular game. I think it's a really tough spot for him as a young lefty and against the Houston Astros lineup that's been so good against lefties. Number 3 in team OPS with an 860 team OPS in the last month. Number 2 in isolated power, only a 15% strikeout rate, which is the lowest in the league. A pretty high walk rate, top 10 in the league as well. Just doesn't bode well for a guy like Davidson. But on the other side, I do think the Angels will chip in a few runs in this game against Urquidy, who's got an ERA above 4 on the road this season, has struggled with the home run ball in his most recent outings, giving up 3 homers in his last 12 innings combined. So this total is set at 10 right now. It's pretty surprising to see a game not at Coors Field, not at Fenway, not at Great American to get a total of 10, but that just goes to show you how beneficial these offenses are seeing these starting pitchers in this one. Give me the over in this Angels-Astros ball game. Next up, we see the Milwaukee Brewers taking on the Arizona Diamondbacks. Jason Alexander and Zach Gallen are the projected starters, and Jason Alexander's got an ERA above 5 away from home this year. Only 34 strikeouts and 58 innings pitched. I don't like his chances against an Arizona Diamondbacks lineup that does a great job at limiting strikeouts. They've got great numbers overall, team OPS-wise and isolated power-wise against righties in the last month, and I think they get to Alexander here. And Zach Gallen, he's been so-so in the last few starts. His last 5 outings, he hasn't given up a single earned run, but, he's been okay. He's been one of the hottest pitchers in baseball, a .68 ERA in the month of August, 44 strikeouts through 40 innings, and he hasn't faced the toughest of lineups. Phillies' last start was a tough one, 7 innings, no earned runs, 7 strikeouts, but the Royals, the Giants, some struggling offenses, the Pirates, but he also took on the Rockies on the road at Coors Field. Not easy to earn a shutout there. He took on the Guardians on the road as well. That game, he did give up 3 earned runs, and that was his first start of August, but still, he has been pitching so well this season. The Diamondbacks have won 5 of his last 6 starts and 7 of his last 8. So give me the Arizona Diamondbacks here on the money line. In our final game of the night, we see the Los Angeles Dodgers hosting the San Diego Padres. This is your Sunday night baseball contest on ESPN, 7 o'clock Eastern. Mike Clevenger going for San Diego. No official starter for the Dodgers. Mike Clevenger in his last 5 starts, he hasn't faced the toughest of lineups, the Marlins, the Giants, the Washington Nationals, but he's still not striking out a lot of batters. He's had 4 or fewer strikeouts in all 5 of those outings, and that includes a start against these Los Angeles Dodgers, where he only earned 3 Ks through 4 2/3 innings, giving up 2 home runs, 5 earned runs, and 7 base hits in an 8-3 Dodgers win. I cannot trust him right now. To me, he's a pitcher that needs to strike out guys, needs to miss bats to have success, and he's not doing that right now, so I can't trust him. Give me the Los Angeles Dodgers on the run line, laying the 1.5 runs. And that's it. Those are the games for Sunday, September 4th. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. And don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comments section below. Again, if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at Pick Dawgz Premium. As always, this is Ron Romanelli. Good luck.